Hello there, this is Jay Frost, and welcome to today's session of How to Raise, part of the Philanthropy Mastermind series. We're thrilled to have you join us for the CFRE accredited seminar on how to raise long-term ongoing revenue through monthly giving. But before we begin, I want to recognize that today is a very important day in the US, where maybe some of you are from and others may be unfamiliar with this date. It's, of course, June 19th, and that's Juneteenth, a day of deep historical and cultural significance in the US. On this date, in 1865, more than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, Union troops arrived in Galveston, Texas, to enforce the freedom of the last enslaved people in the former Confederacy. That delayed announcement marked a turning point in American history, and one still echoed in the fight for equity today. Though Juneteenth celebrations have taken place for generations, it wasn't until 2021 that the US government officially recognized it as a federal holiday. And fortunately, we're still observing it and hope to continue observing it today and far, far into the future. At a time when diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts are under coordinated attack, and government actions are actively seeking to defund or even silence organizations advancing social justice agendas, it's essential that nonprofits remain strong, self-sustaining, and rooted in their mission. That's one of the reasons why we chose to offer today's session, even though it's a national holiday here in the US, because building resilient organizations is one small way we can honor Juneteenth. And today's program will provide tools to do exactly that. Now, before I introduce our presenter today, a friend of the program and to the sector, I want to welcome you and encourage you to participate in everything we do. And that means that you can actively participate in the chat and the Q&A. And I want to, in fact, ask you and invite you to do that right now. So if you would go ahead, if you haven't already done so, and just open up the chat and say hello, we would love that. And I know that our presenter today would love it as well. It helps her to have context for what to talk about and when to talk about it. So if you could say maybe who you are, which part of the country, or in this case, the world you're from, maybe the organization that you're with, we would love to have that kind of information, and it really helps, again, as she dives into this topic and tailors it to your needs and your interests. And we can see already we have somebody right there from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. So wow, that intro really related to Gettysburg. I can say that. So hello, Brett. Good to see you here. And Emily from Portland, Oregon, with Orchestra Nova Northwest. Good to see you here also, Emily. Please, other folks who are here with us live, do go and join them in the chat. It's not only a way for you to say where you're from and have that then be a part of the context that our guest can address, but also for all of you to get to know one another. If there's one thing we definitely know in this sector, it's by getting to know one another and helping one another out, we can really build resilience. And so we'll have as much to learn from one another as we will from today's expert, guest, and presenter. So I want to thank everybody here, the others, Daniel and Patty and Jackie and Crystal, Brian, Emily, Tiffany, all of you and more for just warming up that space for a conversation. There's also, of course, the Q&A, and I want to invite you to utilize that as well. So feel free to use either space. We'll be monitoring it throughout. I also want to let you know in advance that there are two other things we'd love you to do. First of all, be on the lookout for a letter coming to you after the session in the next 24 to 48 hours with a link to a recording of this. And depending upon her preference, we may also be able to include the slide deck with that, but we'll find out that in a few minutes. So you don't need to worry. You will be getting access to a recording. Just be on the lookout for that letter coming to you by email. Additionally, you'll see a survey at the very end of today's session. That's a great way for you to let us know what we're doing right, maybe what we're not, but most importantly, what you want to see and hear in the future. So please do fill that out. It'll take you less than 60 seconds to do. And we really do rely on that for all of our programming. And since we've done about now close to nearly 700 programs in this series, going back to 2016, it really, really does matter to hear from you and then to use that information to make sure we're programming what you need to see and hear. I also want to thank our sponsor before we begin here today, and that's DonorSearch, the world leader in AI and donor research solutions for the nonprofit sector. We won't be talking about them today unless our guest chooses to mention them for some reason, and it's not any lack of affection. It's simply that our focus today is on you. But if you'd like to learn more about them and their work, I hope you will, because they can help you to understand your donors. And that's so critical to our conversation today and every conversation we have. You can do all that over on their website at donorsearch.net. Again, that's donorsearch.net. You'll find a little QR code to that at the conclusion today. And while you're there, you can take a look under the resources tab for recordings of literally dozens upon dozens of these programs, including these CFRE accredited ones. So check all that out at donorsearch.net when you're done today, or check out their YouTube channel. Now, finally, our presenter today is Erica Waasdorp, president of A Direct Solution. Erica is a recognized expert in monthly giving and direct response fundraising with over 3 decades of experience working with nonprofit organizations in the US and globally. She served in leadership roles on both the client and agency sides, including the International Fund for Animal Welfare and DMW Direct, where she helped organizations raise millions through strategic donor acquisition, retention, and what we're talking about today, sustainer program development. Since founding A Direct Solution in 2003, she's provided executive fundraising support to a wide range of nonprofits, offering services in annual giving, grant writing, events, training, monthly giving program development, et cetera. She's a certified AFP master trainer and a frequent presenter, not only here, but also at major conferences around the country. The author of 2 books, which I hope you'll put on your shelf on monthly giving. One is Monthly Giving, The Sleeping Giant, and Monthly Giving Made Easy, as well as numerous toolkits and guides by fundraisers nationwide. I'm not going to say any more because she won't have any time to present. So please join me in welcoming Erica Waasdorp. Erica, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much, Jay. Awesome. Thanks for that great introduction. All right, here you see me. So no more need for introductions. Let's jump right in. And as Jay mentioned, like, please feel free to use the Q&A or the chat, and he will be monitoring that. So, all right. So what we're going to talk about today is, how to raise that sustainable revenue, right, that you need for the long term. And we're in a very interesting time for sure. And if we thought the pandemic was bad enough, now it's really, really challenging. So I have probably seen more monthly giving appeals in the past few months than ever before. So now it's really, really the time to work on that sustainable revenue. So let's talk about a couple of trends and how can you get started with literally I call it a tiny story, a nudge, a one-liner, right? And then what are some of the other things, great examples of what you can consider doing? Because one of my books is actually called Monthly Giving Made Easy. And it's literally, there's a lot of different things that you can do. We're not talking about big things. We're talking about small things that are going to make a difference. And again, if you've heard me speak before, I'm all for trying to keep things simple and doable because I know you're busy. So start with one thing and then add on to it, right? All right, so let's jump right in. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So when we talk about monthly giving, it's all about planting seeds. And again, it's not something that you just say, okay, I'm just doing a campaign in January and I'm done. No, it's little seeds that you plant during the year. So why are monthly donors so important? Because they provide you with that reliable revenue, right? They can give in a way that's comfortable for them. So monthly giving is really very donor centric, right? Also, younger donors love it, right? They can't necessarily write the big checks, but they can start with $5, $10, $25 a month. It's a very efficient use of your resources. And also, monthly donors are 6 times more likely to leave you in their will. So once you have a monthly donor, start planting the seeds about legacy giving, right? But very important, retention rates improve. That's another great reason why monthly giving is so tremendously powerful. Now, why? What is the biggest reason why monthly giving is so important? Because you can plan on that unrestricted money to be there no matter what happens. We're in several wars right now. We've got pandemics, we've got measles outbreaks, we've got tornadoes. I mean, literally, like there's fires. There is something going on virtually every day, unfortunately. So, but having these monthly donors means that you get that funding that keeps coming in on an ongoing basis, and you can plan on that. So you can guarantee that it's there. But the other thing is, I mentioned retention rate. Retention rates improve. This is a study that Neon One did, and you can go on their site and look for it. It's a great resource, and they looked at just the Neon One clients, and they looked at what are some of the trends that they're seeing in retention rates. And you see that like in 2022, 77% of monthly donors stayed. And again, if you can get them to give via their bank account, it goes up to 90, 95%, right? So if you look at the fact that the average one-time donor, so they come on board, they give once, that retention rate might be 20 to 30%. If you get them to make a second gift, now your retention rate might go up to 45%. But if you can get them to become a monthly donor, that retention rate doubles, right? So really, really critical. Another thing is, this is an M&R benchmark study that shows that online giving, one-time gifts in the US was flat year over year. The past couple of years, the one-time gifts that came in online, they didn't grow. But monthly giving increased by 5% last year. And it was 31% of all online revenue that they measured in 2024. So just think about if you could get 31% of your donors to give monthly, what would that mean for you, right? So these are just a couple of different trends that you can find out. Now, online is not the only way that you can generate monthly donors. There is a lot of organizations that are really still successful with using mail. And some call up their donors. Some are texting their donors. Some are putting in digital advertising. So some are doing inserts in their campaigns, right? So it's all about trying to plant the seeds in whatever channel you're already communicating with your donors. So this is like another, and this is just one example. So what's channels convert? Well, mail and phone still work, email works, all of it together works even more powerful, right? Now let's look at a couple of definitions because you hear it. Like, I mean, I say it, like I say monthly donors, I say recurring, sustainers, committed giver, regular givers, or maybe you have specific names for your program. So I'd love to actually have you put in the chat if you have a name for your monthly donor program. So let's put that in the chat and I'll take a look at that in a minute. All right. So again, and there's like lots and lots of different approaches here, but and I know like in the UK and Australia, they typically call them regular givers, so okay, so Melissa, thanks. Champions, Brenda says Care Club, House Heroes, Jackie says, so great, excellent. So yeah, just keep punching that in there. Now, monthly donors give more money. So what do you think is the 5-year value of a typical monthly donor? So I'd love to have you type that in the chat. What do you think is the 5-year value of a typical monthly donor? I'm gonna give you a minute. Okay, so Melissa says 2K. Crystal says $500. All right, 1,200, Emily says. All right, not everybody at the same time. All right, 3,000, Brad says. Okay, 600, 100. Okay, so you see it's all over the map, right? So the typical monthly donor value is $1,500 or more. So And Brett, to your point, some organizations, they're seeing that they're getting $50 a month, right? So 3,000 is more likely, okay? But what I want you to do with this is really think long term. Neon One showed that the typical lifetime value that they've measured is 8 years. So 5 years is a great way to measure the value of your monthly donors. I mean, I typically say at the minimum, start with 1 year value. So it's not like you're bringing in a $25 a month donor that's worth $300 a year, and that's it. It's $25 a month. No, it's $300 a year times 5 is $1,500 or more. Right. So it's all about like thinking long term. So again, you can count on that money to be there for the very long time. Again, here's that chart that I mentioned. Neon One says, okay, wow, large organizations, they're seeing 9 years on average. And of course, that looked at organizations that started a monthly donor program 9+ years ago, right? So, but just like think long term, think about like you're bringing in a mid-level donor, a major donor in some cases, right? Um, so the other question I'm going to ask you is, Doug, and just use the chat, and Jay's going to look at that. It's like, how many monthly donors do you have now? Is it like 10, 50, 100? Okay, so it says, Yummy Lit says 100. Emily says 12. All right. So yeah, 50, 40 plus. Brett says 49. All right. And I know like, I think Melissa has more. 15, Emily says. All right. So again, you see all over the map, right? So what I recommend that you do is after this session today is take those monthly donors that you have and write out, if you were to annualize their value, how much are they worth? So say you have 100 monthly donors, say the average gift is $25 a month, $300 a year is $30,000. If you look at the 8-year value, wow, it's $180,000, right? So take the number of monthly donors that you have, look at their average gift, and then write this as your benchmark for today. Put that on your bulletin board or on your computer, wherever you keep your important papers, right? So establish your benchmark, because I'm going to help you grow it, right? But start with where you are today. All right, now a couple of other things to remember is why donors give monthly. The number one reason why donors give monthly is because they want to help. But monthly is easy, especially now, right? With, tariffs and cost of living, and people just don't know what's going on, right? So it's a way that they can continue to support your organization because they care about that organization. But monthly may just be the way that is comfortable and easier for them. It fits their budget, right? But the number one reason is donors want to help. So we have to continue as fundraisers, we have to continue to tell the donor that we need them, that we want them, that they can help us, right? Now, what are some key elements for growth? Commitment, systems, tangible amounts, and stories, right? And this is the same for one-time gifts as well, right? Except for the commitment. So systems, tangible amounts, stories, that's what works in general fundraising. That commitment is critical though. So, and if I'm in there, sometimes when I have a presentation in a room, I ask like people to show hands and say, how many of you are actually giving monthly yourself? So I'd love to see if your hands go up here. Okay. So are you giving monthly yourself to your organization? And then that's a key. And I see, all right, Jay says, yes, I am. I'm seeing like some hands going up. So excellent. So yes, because that is where it starts, right? You have to be committed to saying, this is a long-term plan. This is a long-term program. I mean, again, some donors have been giving monthly for 20, 30 plus years, right? So you have to be committed to it. So I recommend that you start with like joining your own program and also join a couple of other programs so that you can see what they're doing. What are they doing really well? What are you saying? We're doing it better, right? So you need to be committed. And then the reality is systems. When I wrote my first book in 2012, systems, believe it or not, these donation forms did not have a recurring giving option on them at all. That did not, that it was much harder at the time, right? That has really changed. And tangible amounts and storytelling, again, you're probably already doing that really well for your organization. Now we just have to customize it for monthly giving. But as I said, you have to commit. Also, you're in this session today, so I recommend that you're the one who says, look, I really want to drive this program. I really got to move this along and grow it, right? Somebody has to be accountable. If there isn't, you're not going to succeed, right? So somebody really needs to keep that program on track, right? So the first step that I recommend is that you create what I call like a mini story, a nudge, or like also call like a value proposition. So how is a monthly gift going to make a difference? So here's one example. A monthly donation is the most effective way to help families year round. Right? So that's an example of a mini story. So I'd love to have you type in the chat because maybe you already have this little mini one-liner value proposition in place. What does a monthly gift do for your organization? How can a monthly gift make a difference? And while you're doing that, I'll give you a couple of other examples. By giving monthly, you provide dependable support to help us continue our search for an end to Alzheimer's. You can create lasting change by giving monthly. Save more lives. Your gifts will help us plan ahead and do even more to break the cycle of poverty for families. You can probably borrow some of this for your organization, right? Here it is. Your monthly gift helps sustain the programs and services that military families rely on. So I am not seeing anybody like type in their mini story, but start with one liner. What does a monthly gift do? And as I said, you can probably borrow some of this. A lot of you, if you're into like providing food, you can, help like help people lift themselves out of poverty or break the cycle of poverty. Right. So, okay. So Emily is a daring one. All right. Your monthly gift ensures that we're able to provide critical services to families regardless of their income. Yes, that's a one-liner, right? And again, just start with something. You might even have Chat GPT write something for you, right? And then tweak it, right? So start with something. You can always tweak it and customize it down the road as you're running through this a little bit more and as you're talking to monthly donors. So this is another thing is you can talk to your monthly donors that you have now and say, why are you giving monthly? Okay, this is why. So, well, you can help do that. All right, so here's Patty says, a monthly donation will help to provide tech assistance to one of our immigrant small businesses. Great. Okay, so it's one liner. Start with that. Again, you can always tweak it. And why is this one liner so important? Because you're going to start using that on your donation forms when you're putting it in emails on your website, right? So here it is, a little nudge. A monthly donation is the most effective way to help families year round, again, using that. So the other piece is, if you haven't done this already, I recommend that you create a monthly only donation page because you're going to start driving people to go there. Now, in some cases, it's a toggle like you see here, one time monthly, right? Make sure that it's really clear that the donor understands that it's a monthly gift, right? So on the monthly donation page, it's all about monthly. So again, you have that little nudge there. Here's what will happen, right? So create a monthly only version. Again, maybe, again, take a look. And again, there's literally a gazillion donation platform. Actually, like, why don't you use the chat and tell me what donation platform are you using for your online gifts? What are you using for your online gifts now? So, and then take a look at your donation form options, because you may have not looked at it in a while. So highly recommend you say, okay, can I make a monthly only option? And then the other thing, and this is really popular, this works really, really well. Can you do a light box, a pop-up? So a donor goes to your page and says, I want to make a one-time gift. And then before that one-time gift goes through, is saying, would you consider turning your one-time gift into a smaller monthly gift? And a lot of people are taking you up on it. And this is a very deliberate approach. The donor knows that they're making a monthly gift, right? So if your platform can handle a light box, I would highly recommend that you test it, right? So I see a QGive, Blomerang, Razor's Edge, Arts People. So a lot of these platforms are allowing you to do a Lightbox now. But if nothing else, start with creating a monthly only page where you drive people to go there. Again, make it monthly and only. This is a Razor's Edge example, right? So again, here it is, become a hero of hope. It tells you you can help feed a hungry family, support all the work Catholic Charities does in the community. Again, you're giving some options, you're having the payment systems, the payment options right there. And yes, I'll be a hero of hope. So on that monthly page, it's really clear to the donor that they are making a monthly gift. And then once you've created that page, start directing people to go there. Adding buttons is great. You always want to make it really, really easy to find, right? Now, this is an example of a test that this religious organization did. On the left, you see donate. On the right, you see donate and give monthly. So they literally added a button to the homepage. What do you think that did? How do you think adding that button did? And again, type in the chat. So what do you think? How did that adding that button give monthly do? Did it generate a few monthly donors? Did it double the revenue? Did it triple? So Brett says huge. People could find it instantly. Absolutely. So I'm giving you the answer. Okay. So this adding this button, give monthly, doubled the number of monthly donors that they generated. And again, a lot of people, they're driving donors to their general website, right? So again, just give monthly, doubled the number of monthly gifts. And this organization tested that. They didn't just do that, right? So now, needless to say, this has become their control, right? So again, drive donors to that monthly giving page. Put it in your emails, put it everywhere. I will donate monthly. I stand with vet. A monthly gift will help vets and families year round, right? Add a button to your emails. Here it is. Make a gift, one-time gift, give monthly. It's a button. It's not going to hurt your one-time revenue. It's a button. And again, on that give monthly, you go into the monthly only page, right? Also, start driving people using your social media, right? Your monthly gift makes a difference. So again, if you can combine that with all of your other messaging, huge, right? But also think about your email signature. Help give a local family a fresh start. That's the one-liner, right? By becoming a monthly hope builder. So use your emails signature. Use your welcome emails. More and more organizations have automated welcome emails. So build that into the mix. If it's easier on your budget, please consider a monthly donation. And then you go to the monthly only page, right? So again, think about what are you doing? What are you sending to your donors? Where can you add in the opportunity to drive donors to give monthly? that's really it, right? So, and again, I talk with a lot of organizations of all levels, right? So, of all sizes. And the key with this is don't overthink it. Keep it simple, add a button, see what happens, and then, build from there. Also, if you're sending out mailings, absolutely add a monthly giving option to your reply form. What do you have to lose? Now, again, in this day and age with laser versions, you can test it. I've tested it for a couple of organizations. It added a number of monthly gifts and it did not hurt the one-time revenue. So again, that's obviously the reason why you want to test it, right? So think about ways that you can build in your monthly gift option to your appeal reply form. Also, a lot of people don't have checks anymore. So if your platform and if your system allows to take electronic funds transfer, bank account withdrawal, put it right there on the reply form that you could accept a first month's check or avoid a check, or the donor can complete their bank account information. Because a lot of us have bank apps, right? And we don't necessarily use checks anymore. So you need to make it easy for the donor to consider a monthly gift, right? And then put some options and nudges to your letter, right? You can, like this example on the left is like literally like a little 3 ways to give: mail, online, and monthly, right? It's right there in the letter, or add a PS or a PPS, right? Conveniently donate each month. And again, this is your recurring monthly gift will empower the American Air Museum to share these heroic stories, right? So that's the one-liner. So literally, once you get that one-liner, put it wherever you possibly can think of, right? Also, if you're doing a thank you letter and you're asking for money in your thank you letter or in your follow-up letter, right? Consider a little buck slip, saying, will you be a hero? Join the Heroes of Hope monthly giving program. You can add a QR code, you can add a link. Again, it's all about planting the seeds, right? But how about using a postcard? Postcards are great. I've known several I know several organizations that have been very successful with sending postcards to their donors, right? Still very targeted. But again, a postcard can explain the story. Again, it's a short story. You have a QR code, it's personalized, it's very powerful. And especially if you then add it in with other channels, right? So adding some emails to push the donor along some more, right? So again, think about what we call like surround sound opportunities, right? So what some organizations do is they say, look, every May, every September, every January, that is their like sustainer drive, their monthly giving drive. And again, they're like saying, look, that is everything that we're doing: the postcard, the email, the appeal, a phone call, maybe some text messaging. It's all aimed at that monthly giving drive, right? So think about that. Like, where can you fit that in to your organization, to your channel? And the phone is absolutely not dead. Just like direct mail is not dead, the phone is not dead at all. So use it in conjunction with other channels. I know several organizations that are still really successful with calling their donors. If you're talking your donors to say thank you, and maybe the donor says, I wish I could do more. Then you say, well, as a matter of fact, would you consider becoming a monthly donor? And they're like, what is that? Right. So then you can have a conversation. Texting is great. You can use texting for asking, for giving, for thanking, for reminding, special occasions, birthdays, anniversaries. And also, like, if the card expired, you can use texting for a lot of things. Love to know actually if you're using texting in your organization, because I know that's a whole other thing that help support all of your other fundraising, right? So it's all about, yeah, okay. So Brett says, no, we don't. But Emily says we do. Okay, I think that's what you say, right? So yes, it's all about like combining all of your channels, your mail, your phone, your email, your texting, your digital, social media, to so that the donor will get the same message. Like, yes, we want you to start giving monthly because it really, really makes a difference. Oh, thanks, Emily, for that. Yeah, we're not texting yet, but beginning to explore. Now, what do you do once they become a monthly donor? You want to make them feel special, right? But when they first start, when you're like starting to basically sell the donor to say, like, yes, will you become a monthly donor? And this is what happens when you do. You are going to get updates on how your gifts are all helping, and we will send you an overview of all of your giving every January. Those are the only two promises that I recommend you give them. So they'll get, you don't have to specify like, yeah, you're getting quarterly updates or you're getting daily updates or weekly update, whatever it is, right? So you just want to tell them that they're going to start getting updates on how their gifts are making a difference. Their monthly gifts are making a difference. And they'll get an overview of all of their giving for tax purposes. And within that, you can add things, you can do things that will make them feel even more special, but keep it simple and doable at first. Because the minute you say like they're going to get quarterly updates and whatever, and then you can't get to it, now you're like breaking your donor promise, right? So keep it very, very simple and doable. But I do recommend that when the donor first makes their monthly gift, no matter which channel, take a moment to say thank you and make it as personal as you can. If you're a bigger organization, you can outsource this. There's companies that do this and they literally take your handwriting and make it look like yours, right? But if you have the time yourself, say welcome to the Compassionate Care Circle. Thank you so much. There is a name, there is like somebody actually said down, you're a blessing. Wow. Okay. I'm going to hold on to this, right? So it doesn't matter how they came on, you're going to send them a personal thank you as soon as you can. Make it personal. Again, donors are going to say, wow, they really appreciate my monthly gift, no matter what the size is, right? The other piece is once they become a monthly donor, make sure that you segment them in your donor base, in your email program, and in your text program that you can address them as recurring donors. This is a national park. They send in a monthly email newsletter. And as a friend of MPF, blah, 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 thank you for your ongoing support being a monthly donor, right? So it's literally like a one-line difference from the other newsletters that you're sending out to your non-recurring donors, right? It's like, but having that segment is key. So you can customize the recognition in those subsequent emails. This organization, it's not a very big organization, but they are doing an amazing job with sending thank yous, personal, sharing impact stories every month. And again, it's like, thank you for being a friend. And they have pictures in there, right? So, and again, this organization happens to do this monthly. You don't have to do this monthly, but think about what are you doing now? What are you sending to your donors? Can you make a version of that to your monthly donors? Maybe there's something in your major gift department that somebody is doing that you say, oh, can I borrow that? Can I add on to that to send it to my monthly donors with a tiny tweak, right? So again, keep it simple and doable. Oh, don't overthink it, but take a look and say, what am I doing now? What am I sending to my donors? How can I customize that to make those monthly donors feel really special? Also, and I mentioned this earlier, ask your monthly donors for a quote. Why are they giving monthly? And, I started working with an organization. They had 15 monthly donors. And that was the first thing they did. They sent a thank you note to their monthly donors with a little 3x5 card and a reply envelope that says, would you mind sharing why you're giving monthly? And they received a huge response back. And they were blown away by the reasons why those donors gave monthly. And then they could use that to reach out to other potential monthly donors, right? So use the monthly donors that you have to capitalize on and use them as social proof, if you will, right? So ask your monthly donors for a quote. Also, people ask me this all the time, like, what should I do once I have them? How often can I reach out to them? The reality is that your monthly donors care. They may have been given multiple times before they became a monthly donor. They care and they want to help. So if you have a match, if you have a giving day, if you have Giving Tuesday, if it's year end, by all means, include your monthly donors in those extra appeals. But make sure that you recognize them as such. Here it is. This is Houston Food Bank. Huge. As a monthly donor and faithful friend, you know how this impact makes. So again, so recognize them so that the donor doesn't think that you're like just hitting them up for a one-time gift and you don't even know that they're already making such wonderful ongoing support, right? So recognize them in that, and you can absolutely ask them for an additional gift, right? Make it a special gift. Giving days, Giving Tuesdays, matches, anything where you say, look, if this is a loyal donor, what would they be upset about if they didn't know? Right? So, like, say you have a capital campaign. Well, by all means, include them in that, saying, I'm not necessarily expecting you to give a gift right now, but I just want to keep you informed, right? So, and again, you might be blown away by what they will give you when you do. And remember, it's okay to reuse your stories. It's okay to repurpose. The best way is to try to make it as personal as possible. But say if your executive director did a thank you video a year ago, take a look at that and say, is that something we can reuse, right? Because donors are not going to remember what you sent them yesterday, right? So it's totally fine to look back a couple of years and say, oh, I've got this. I saw somebody in the field and we're still in that area, right? Use that. So it's totally fine to reuse your stories and repurpose. Recycling is great, right? You have my permission. Okay, a couple of final takeaways here. So I hope that I shared with you that generating monthly donors is important and it deserves focus, especially right now. I've thrown a number of different ways at you, a number of tactics to grow your monthly donor program, but pick one thing. Start with what you think, oh, okay, I can do that button on the homepage, or I can do that button in an email or an email newsletter, and see what happens. So start with that little mini story. So again, like, take a look at what you can come up with that says a monthly gift will do this, right? And then start using that story, tweak it along the way, and then start adding some buttons, and you will grow your monthly giving program. So, final question here, use the chat. So with all of these different things that I've just thrown at you, so what will you do next? What's the first thing you're going to do to grow your monthly donors out of all the different things that I've shared with you today? What will you do next to grow your monthly donors? I'll give you a minute. All right, so Patty says do an ask in our newsletter. Okay. Personal thank you letters, impact story, many they're not being used. This is great. Put it on the banner on our webpage. Outreach to donor renewals, suggest a monthly gift instead of one time. Yes, love the monthly donor quotes. Great. So again, oh, we have a light box online. We add the option to print appeals. Yeah, great. So again, every organization is different. Every organization has a different starting point. So think back at creating that first benchmark as to today, here's where you are. Okay, where do you want to be in a couple of months? What's your goal? going to be, right? This is another thing. This is like, there's something magical about goals, right? You have to write them down and you will accomplish them. It's interesting. Like, so this organization I mentioned earlier, they started with 15 monthly donors. And we said, all right, well, I mean, we started working together in like March and said, well, what would you like to go with? Oh, I'd like to triple it. So to 45. Okay. Well, we did a couple of things. They added a welcome email. They added buttons to every email that they sent. They did a small targeted campaign in the summer with the goal of um 35 new monthly donors because they were celebrating their 35th anniversary, and they got a $3,500 match from their board. And now, a year later, they're at 180 monthly donors just by doing a couple of little things, right? So, and start with writing down your goals and then start beating them, right? So, but again, you have to write them down. So start with your benchmark, write down where you are today, and then set some goals of where you want to be at the end of the calendar year, at the end of your fiscal year, right? Write down your goals, because great things are done by a series of small things brought together, by Vincent van Gogh. Great things are done by a series of small things brought together. So with this, I mean, you're with all these little things that I've shared today, with the things that you're going to implement, you're going to create a masterpiece of monthly donors, right? So that's it for me. I'm opening it up for questions. And I think Jay says, so I think Jay, yep, I see you're on.
Right.
You're on. And
Well,
hey, I did really well with time. I was like, whoa, I was worried
well,
about that. So,
yeah. I mean, there was a lot in there, and you managed
yeah,
to do it so clearly, but also smoothly and quickly. I don't know how
yeah,
you jammed all that in there.
yeah,
Um, so if there are questions, please do go ahead and list them. And Erica, I don't know if you have something that lists your contact information. If you do, if you
yep,
put that up for a
yep,
second, so
yep.
people can grab that. And then while they're looking at that and listening to their questions, I just want to let folks know some of the things that are coming up in this series, but please do go ahead and list your questions now, because Erica can tackle them. And
And
we
I did
personal.
promise, I did promise earlier on, I don't know if everybody saw that, but yes, I will send you my slides. So feel free to
Yeah.
use these. Absolutely. Yes, no problem. Yep.
And so that's a great reminder. So once again, you're going to get an email with that's a note from DonorSearch from the Philanthropy Mastermind series with a link to a recording here, which you can share with colleagues, because I know it's never a one-person show in this stuff. You'll have to get other people to understand the value of this. It might be helpful for them to see this or some of it. Anyway, that plus the slide deck. So both of those will be linked in that document. So be on the lookout for it. If you don't see it, check your spam folder, or you can always contact me directly. My email address is j@donorsearch.net. And you can see Erica's contact information right there, which I think Jack will probably also list in the chat.
Yep. He's already done that. Yep.
And while you're listing your questions, I want to let you know things that are coming up in this series over the next week. So first of all, tomorrow night, we'll be posting an interview in the PM podcast. If you haven't heard that, it's a way to hear about the personal lives of people behind the work. And this time it's with Roger Ali, who's the chair of AFP Global. It'll be a conversation exploring his leadership journey, the future of the fundraising profession, and priorities shaping our field today. So you can check that out wherever you'd like to get your podcasts. And then on June 24th, which is next Tuesday, our Frontlines of Social Good show returns with a panel that's all focused exclusively on the newly released Giving USA results. So this is Giving USA 2025. The results come out at 7 a.m. that morning. We are the first people releasing it, and we'll have that information to you with a panel with Rashida Childress, who's the senior editor of the Chronicle of Philanthropy, Sarah Tedesco, executive VP at DonorSearch, and once again, Roger Ali, who is the chair of AFP. They'll all be going over those results, interpreting them with you and for you. Bring your questions. That's next Tuesday at 1 p.m. And then finally, next Thursday in this show, How to Raise, we'll have Jeff Schreifels, who's the principal at Veritas Group, talking about the 7 pillars of a thriving major gifts program. You can check all that out on the DonorSearch site under the resources tab. and make sure you're on their list so you can learn about all those things in the future. And Erica, if you come back on camera then, and we'll see if there are any questions for you to tackle. I know we had one that was really early on from Patty, and this is very common. I don't know if you can address it or not, but Patty had asked or said, we are heavily grant funded and have practically no individual donors, so it makes some of these things a challenge. How do I build a donor base? Would you like to touch on that?
Yeah, I'm happy to, but it might actually be easier, Patty, if you want to send me a note, because there's a lot that goes into this. So, but yeah, you have to start somewhere. So, that might be easier to talk offline. Feel free to email me. So because it's a little bit it's going to take a little bit longer than like a couple of minutes to answer that question, but it's a great question. So, and I see Emily had a question. Can you repeat the stats and share a bit more about the difference in retention in monthly ACH, EFT, direct debit versus credit card donations? So yes, right now, if you can get a donor to sign up from their bank account, you're looking at like 95% retention for a monthly donor. And the credit cards, it depends a little bit on American Express tends to have a higher retention rate than other credit cards. But they're like looking typically like hovering about like 75 to 85%. As long as you focus and do something about it. So you do have to follow up. So figure 75 to 85% for credit cards and 95% for ACH. So again, most donation platforms now offer them. So again, like if you haven't done that already, like make sure that you're building that in. So start somewhere.
And I'm looking to see if there's anything else. It doesn't look like there's anything else in the chat or the Q&A right now. But this is a perfect time, folks. If you have a question that's more specific to your organization, please do list it now. And Erica, while we're giving people at least a little breathing space to do that, if they have anything, final questions, I want to ask you if people were starting this from square one, sort of like that question in the Q&A, what is the one or maybe the two things that you'd have them do first?
Yeah, I would make sure that you have that monthly donation form created first, because you're going to start linking to it everywhere. Okay, so if you don't have a monthly only page yet, or if you don't have that opportunity, so you'd start there. And again, most donation platforms can handle that. So in some cases, it looks like a little toggle. So you see one time monthly, make sure that you have it preset for monthly for that particular form. And then, again, then start adding buttons in your email newsletters, in your e-appeals. So give now or give monthly. Again, I'm seeing amazing results for those organizations that are doing that. So those are the first two things I would create.
And maybe as a follow-up to that, I know one of the reasons why sometimes we don't do things is time or money, but often that time or money equation isn't so much that we don't have the time or the money, it's that we have to negotiate with others for those resources, for the time, and for those dollars. So what are some of the arguments that you make to help organizations navigate that? Because there may be a person with us live or who's watching this later, and they say, I'd love to do this. I'm sold. How do I get my colleague,
Yeah.
my boss, my board to say yes?
Yeah, it's geez, I mean, that's why we both have gray hair. So we have gray hair at times. That is probably the hardest sell at times, because it is a long-term focus, right? So you're saying, look, rather than focusing on getting $50 one-time gifts, I'm going to generate a $25 a month, which is $300 a year gift, right? So I think, but this is why it's so relevant. Numbers are typically the best stories to tell, right? So that's why I recommend start with, and again, I do this all the time, saying, well, how many monthly donors do you have? Okay. And they typically organizations know how many they have. And then, okay, well, what are they worth? And then like, I don't know, right? So then they have to, when they calculate it, And they look at that, it's like, whoa, I had no idea that it was worth this much money, right? So even those 15 monthly donors or those 15 monthly donors that you have, what are they worth now? And then say, look, if we, you know, double that, this is what we could count on. So it's not like we're starting July 1st at zero. No, I mean, if you can count on $30,000 to come in, it's already there on July 1st, right? So, or if you can count on $100,000 to be there because you have so many monthly dollars already, then it's it's less money that you have to raise, right? So, and again, you can capitalize on that. So I would start with like the numbers that you have now and then make the case and say, look, this is an area where it's donor centric. I mean, these are the trends. I mean, people are comfortable with it. And again, I have a gazillion more trends if you need them. So feel free to reach out. But it's saying, look, this is a lot, but it's a long-term approach, right? So it's like you got to think long-term. It's not like you would get the money right away, but you will get some money during the year. So you, again, it's like you're budgeting your own expenses, right? Well, the donors are doing this as well. So it's again, it's very donor centric, and it's a way that you can raise money from smaller donors
Right.
on an ongoing basis. That's comfortable for them. So
I think we're all accustomed to already paying monthly for something
yes,
and signing up with a credit
subscriptions,
card.
absolutely,
It's a
yes. Yep,
subscription-based economy. Daniel had asked, what about bundling several charities together?
yeah,
I work for several. So what if we
yeah.
start with folks who want to donate monthly to several groups? Have you run into
Yeah, that's it. I've seen something in the UK where they did something like that
Mhm.
for a legacy giving. I've not seen it for monthly. But having said that, you can totally like say, hey, if you care about this, and I would love to know what types of charities you're working for and working with. But yes, I mean, again, it's like some areas have New Orleans Give, right? New Orleans Give, or some of
Right.
those giving days that are like focused in a certain area. That's an opportunity where you say, look, rather than looking for one-time gifts, let's make this a campaign where we're looking for monthly gifts to support all of these organizations on an ongoing basis.
Well, in a sense,
So,
I guess that's what United Way has always been.
yes, yes,
Because people give to
yeah,
United Way and then it's redistributed. Or if I know seems like a very different example, but
yeah,
Lincoln Center is actually there are a whole bunch of different organizations underneath that umbrella,
yeah,
and that would be true of other organizations as
yeah,
well, arts organizations. So you might give to the Central or at Harvard University, but then
yeah,
there are all the different colleges.
right.
So maybe it's something that we're already
It's something like,
experiencing.
yeah, like something like that. So
Right.
yeah, okay. So Daniel, yeah, that's great. And again, feel free to reach out and we can talk about it some more after as well. So, but yeah, because I'd love to, again, if it was like, so it's kind of two things, right? So you want to tell the donors that it's a way that they can give, right? And we're all trying to communicate with them individually as organizations, as opposed to like saying, hey, as an industry, where we're talking about it and we're all in the same boat. But yeah, so
Right.
yeah.
What
And
you
I think the
just
more people are talking about it, so the better off we are, right?
Erica, you had said something earlier that just sticks in my mind, and I want to make sure I understood that the numbers and the lesson. You talked with about one organization you worked with that were at 15 monthly donors,
Yes.
and then you went to 45, but now
They
they're at
their goal was
180.
45 and now they're at 180. Yes. Yes.
So, two questions on that. I'm not asking you to do the math in your head, but
Hmm.
you might know this number. Do you know, first of all, how much revenue they were getting before, how much revenue they're getting now, and the difference, maybe just roughly, between what they're getting from those 180 monthlies versus what they were getting from those same 180 people before. So, in other words, how
Right.
much more money they're getting because they did this?
Yeah, well, think about like they were getting like $35 for one-time gifts.
Right,
So, and now they were getting, their average monthly gift was like $15 a month. So now they were getting $180 a year, right, from those
right.
donors. So I mean, I don't have my calculator handy,
So
but yeah,
180 times
180
180,
times 180
and
times
then the difference
12,
between that
yeah,
instead
times
of
5 years times 8, so yes.
Yeah, a huge difference in
It's
the.
absolutely a huge difference, right?
And does
So,
this
and
also
yeah,
then relate to the other kinds of fundraising? So can you, from that pool, then pull people who might be interested in planned gifts and major
absolutely.
gifts?
Legacy giving is huge.
Right.
Absolutely. And also major donors. I mean, I saw some of you have educational organizations. I was talking to, our son went to an organization, a university in Tennessee, and I read their magazine, and there was one donor who made a $1 million gift. And you know how he started? $5 a month alum. So again, just because they're giving monthly now doesn't mean you can't upgrade them. And again, you can absolutely upgrade. I mean, I didn't even share that in my presentation, right? So you can upgrade them. You can ask for extra gifts. You can ask for capital campaign support, so you can down the road, you can ask them for a major gift,
And they're
right?
more likely probably to give it
Yeah.
because
Yes.
their
And
level of commitment is
I
higher.
hear some organizations, they're saying, "Oh yeah, I talked to my major donor and they wanted to really help, and they used to write a $5,000 check, and I asked them for $1,000 a month." Well, guess what? Now you brought them from $5,000 to $12,000, right? So again, there's
Right.
lots of these examples, but start with something. So it's all about like plan. I guess what I'm saying is you have to start planting the seeds. Don't be afraid. And to your point, Jay, it does not cost much money anymore. You have the tools. You have your donation platform. You have your email program. In many cases, you have your welcome emails. So use what you have to get started. So don't worry too much about what you don't have. Start with what you have, right? Keep it simple. I think that's really the message I wanna give everybody. Is like, you have the tools. Now, when I started in monthly giving 32 years ago, it was mail and phone. Well, you have a lot more now. Online didn't exist in those days. Now you have online. So start there, right? And build from there.
Thank you so much, Erica, for all this.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it, as always. And thank you to everybody who was with us live, and to those who are watching this recording later. You have all the information, of course, about how to reach Erica if you want to talk further. And if you're interested in these materials and you're watching this recording, just contact me. Again, that's jay@donorsearch.net, or you can find me on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to get you what you need. But until next time, thanks very much for being here, and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Erica.